Today I would like to welcome local author Carly Milacci. CJ Milacci writes stories for teens and young adults with heart-pounding action and hope. As a referee, she is always learning the hard lesson that it's impossible to make everyone happy, and she's discovered that stories can be found anywhere, even on a lacrosse field. She's passionate about crafting stories of good overcoming evil, finding hope in the midst of seemingly hopeless circumstances, and true acceptance. Welcome, Carly. I got your name right.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Milacci.
Yes.
Is that Italian?
Yes, it is Italian, but we do not pronounce it in the Italian way, obviously.
Which would be Milacci.
Milacci, yeah.
Right, but you're Milacci. Great.
Milacci, yes.
Well, welcome. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I got to quickly ask before I forget. So what's the lacrosse reference there?
So
even on a lacrosse field.
Sure.
So let me tell you what I thought when I read that. I thought, oh my goodness, she's probably one of those star players and she just overcomes sort of all these sports obstacles to become the best lacrosse player ever. Was it something like that?
No,
Okay.
no, that would be exciting. No, I'm a lacrosse referee. So I referee girls and women's lacrosse. So I do summer tournaments sometimes. And the one summer I was at a tournament and in Delaware, and we were right across the way from a National Guard like training area. Yeah. And so the whole time we were having these games all day long, there's the sound of gunfire because the range was right there. And so as I'm reffing a game that was with little kids and I didn't really have to think too much,
right.
I just got this idea for a whole story where, in a different world even than the series I've written, and I ended up writing a short story, might do something with it down the road, but
really?
Yeah, just this whole idea that came out of being at a lacrosse game where I could hear gunfire, essentially.
Did you literally write some ideas down after?
I did. Yes. As soon as I was on my break, I pulled out my phone and jotted down some story ideas and actually wrote a short story that could be the part of like opening into another story world, really.
I love it. I mean, you do so much. I can't even sort of get my head around it. So let's start with, you have this, tell us about you, a little bit about you, please. What you do when you're not writing, and then just tell us a little bit about the series, but also the fact that you as you just told me before we started, that you're going to sort of sprout it into other series.
Sure.
A little bit. Who is Carly?
So I am, I'm a writer, but also I work as a referee. I work as an author's assistant as well. And in terms of what I do in my free time, that doesn't afford too much free time between all of these different hats.
Sure.
But I love being outside. I love going on hikes, walks, just exploring, seeing different things, exploring the world wherever I can. And yeah, I'm really involved with my family, my church, that kind of thing as well. But yeah, and then do you want more about me?
No,
right?
I love that. That's perfect. So there's sort of three branches. There's the refereeing, there's the assistant to another author.
Yes.
How long have you been doing that for?
Well, I work for multiple authors. Oh, wow. So yes.
So that is why. See, I was going to say, how do you do it all? Because your whole presentation, as well as your work, your talented work, is just so incredible. I mean, you've done everything right, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that in a second. But yeah, just tell us about what kind of writer you are, what genre, and tell us about the Talionis series.
Sure. So I write young adult dystopian fiction, or currently in this series, that's the genre. So sci-fi dystopian.
Can you tell me what dystopian is always? Because I'm always like, what is that again? What is that again?
Sure. So it's kind of like the opposite of utopia, right? So it's everything's falling apart, terrible worlds, a future where the world is pretty much just going to pieces, right. Essentially. That's my version of dystopian. So books like The Hunger Games or Divergent and those kind of books would fit in the dystopian world. And then I love stories with a lot of action. So that's what's in my book. So I love the high action, life and death stakes, that kind of thing. So I tend to have that in anything I write. It's what I like to read as well. So it fits, in that way.
And do you like to read young adults still? Or you mean when you grew up, you sort of, how did you get into this young adult genre and stay with it kind of thing?
Sure. So I like reading young adult, partly because I have to now, because it's what I write. So I like to stay in the genre. I like to know what's being published and what's popular in that genre. But I started writing it because I was working with the youth group at my church. And so I talked to the kids about the books they were reading and started reading them too, just to see what they were like. And some of the books they were reading were just kind of sad at the very end. And I wanted to write something that was different. I wanted to write something that had hope in it and didn't just leave you with that feeling of, oh, the world's falling apart. Everything feels like it's falling apart in the real world too. And there's no answer, there's no hope.
So that's what I was going to say. You know, for me, like the Hunger Games, I don't even want to watch the Hunger Games. It's just the thought of it is, from what I've heard, is just sort of too depressing for me personally.
Right.
So what you've done cleverly, correct me if I'm wrong, is you've taken that genre, but you've added your sort of, is it fair to say, like a faith twist?
Yeah.
You know, not a God twist, but you know, like you say, hope against evil. So tell us about, you know, how, because obviously it has, how your faith has influenced your writing.
Yeah, it really influences everything I do, essentially. But my faith is what gives me hope that there's something that's bigger than the evil around me. Okay. And I wanted that to come through in my writing. Okay. So that's a lot of what I tried to do is like there's evil, but there's good as well. And that good can overcome the evil, even when it feels like that's impossible. Right. So even sometimes it's the small wins, the small little things that are like the pictures of hope in our lives, that it's like, okay, everything's crazy, but then look, there's this good thing that's still happening, and kind of just zeroing in on that and being like, oh, okay, even in a crazy, hopeless world, there can be these things that give us hope, and there can be a hope bigger than the evil that's around us.
Right. And so when did you, do you mind me asking how old you are?
Sure, I'm 33.
Oh my goodness, right. You look so much younger.
I get that a lot,
That's crazy. All right, so because I'm trying to think, wow, you've sort of got all these crazy ideas. And to me, it's like you're a full-time writer because you're doing so much with the writing. But take us back, I don't know whether it was in high school or after that, but you know, tell us when you first started writing and thinking, you know what, I want to write a whole book.
So it started around the same time I was reading these other books, and I was like, oh, these are depressing.
So you're sort of a youth leader at church? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What age was that then?
High school. So
way back. Okay,
yeah.
So 15 years.
No, when I was a high school.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The students were high school.
Okay, they're high school.
I was early 20s.
Okay, so like 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right. So you're reading these books and you think, I'm going to have a go at this, which is, by the way, kind of exactly what happened to me. I was starting to read, you know, John le Carre and Daniel Silva, and I thought, I'm going to try and write a thriller. So you're reading these books, and then, you know, tell us if you can, because this show is always, you know, it is about writing, the mechanics of writing. So if you would just guide us through a little bit, you know, whether you took notes, whether you sort of came up with different concepts, you know, how did you actually physically write the first manuscript?
Oh, the first manuscript I wrote, I read a little bit, I learned a little bit, but I thought that I could just write a book and be done by the time I ended. Very wrong. First drafts are not meant to be shared with anybody. At least my first drafts, they're not good.
But wait, even before that, what did you do? Chapter outline? Or did you just start writing?
I had a basic idea, and then I started writing. I felt my way through it.
So that basic idea, and again, I'm going into detail for writers who may be watching and want to do the same. Like, how many pages was that, or how many words was that basic idea? Was it just a page, like on a page, or was it like 10 pages? So
my writing process now is very different than when I started writing. When I started writing, I had a concept and basically an idea of where I wanted to go, probably about a page worth of that. Mm-hmm. I don't write the same anymore. I mean, I can share how I outline and prep my novels now, but at that time, that's what I did, and then sort of discovered.
You literally did just start writing.
I just started writing, and was just kind of feel out the story. I have my cousin who I'm really close with. You and I would brainstorm ideas.
Rachel?
Yes, Rachel. Yes, and we would brainstorm.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks. Great job.
We would brainstorm ideas and sections of my story that were, you know, holding me up. She and I would talk through it and figure it out.
So that was
cousin. Oh my goodness, yes, she's fantastic.
Does she write too?
She not to publish. She enjoys writing stories though. Okay. Yeah.
So and again, this was like 10 years ago, approximately.
Exactly.
So you brainstormed with her, and then was Talionis like the sort of one that bubbled to the top?
It was, yes, but not the version of it now. Okay. A beginning seedling idea of the story.
So you did write the whole manuscript.
I did.
For was it called Recruits of the Talionis then?
I can't remember actually. That's a good question. I think I may have called it that at that point too. I loved the name Talionis, and I sort of stuck with it.
Where did you come up with that name?
So the antagonist in my story, Demetrius Arc, a lot of his life is built on revenge, and a lot of his desire throughout the story is revenge. And Lex Talionis is a Latin phrase that would mean an eye for an eye. So that idea of like taking revenge for something that someone has done to you. So Talionis was the word I pulled from that.
Did you study Latin?
I did, actually, but not in elementary school and early middle school.
Caecilius est Romanus sum. What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know.
That means that's the first line of my Latin textbook, age 13. Caecilius is a Roman man.
Wow.
But that's it. That's all I can remember, unfortunately.
Obviously more than me. I found the meaning of Lex Talionis and just really liked it.
I love it. I love it. And then you and Rachel, from what I read, you really kind of thrashed through all these different characters.
Yes.
And so when would you do that? Like just on a weekend over a cup of tea, or like how did that work mechanically?
Sure. So we get together all the time. So we would hang out, we would do stuff, and half of the thing we would enjoy doing was just talking stories and characters and coming up with ideas. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. What a great way to spend time.
It is really fun.
I had another thought when I was sort of looking at all your books and your website and things, and that was that, it sort of reminded me, reading your book, a little bit of when I first read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, right? So age 12, 13, whatever, however old you are when you read C.S. Lewis. And of course, there's a God theme there, which I never even knew, or no one told me about until, sort of many years later when they talk about, C.S. Lewis and the whole, religion thing. But anyway, so it sort of reminded me of, going on this journey. And so I was wondering, like, nowadays with all this social media and it's just all so, there's so much rubbish out there, right? It's just rubbish in the world. It made me feel good to start to read your book, knowing that, there are still young writers. I thought you were even younger than you were. So I guess my question is, how do you feel about, this crazy world we live in, but the fact that people still do read, and how does that make you feel as a writer?
I love stories, and I think stories can express truth in a way that sometimes you sit down with them, you can say the same exact truth, just flat out explain something to somebody, and they don't really want to hear it. Whereas if you weave it into a story, the power of that truth becomes evident because you're now displaying it in action.
Right.
And so I love that people are still reading, because I think we have an opportunity to say stuff that maybe we couldn't say otherwise.
So you mean, like, if you're trying to, I don't know, with your youth group that you used to do, or you sort of have a personal story to get across what they did wrong, maybe, or something.
Sure.
That kind of thing.
Or you look at Aesop's fables, right? Like, they're old school stories, these ideas, and yet they teach kids a bigger truth, than just a story.
Speaking of which, who is your favorite? Would you say inspired you most to write? Would you say you had a favorite author or favorite book?
I'm really bad at answering that question, because I love a wide variety.
Okay, well,
so
throw out a few. Just can you throw out a
I
couple?
love C.S. Lewis. I loved the Chronicles of Narnia books. I enjoy Nadine Brandis, who's a young adult author as well. Trying to think of a couple others but yeah, there's.
Was there a person, I noticed you? I noticed the incredible team you have with you publishing your books. You've got like a launch team, you've got beta readers, you've got people who supported you when you first did the story. Your guy Schruger, was it?
John Schruger,
Schruger, the military guy. Tell us, for someone who is thinking about writing a book and publishing a book, because I always say to people, it's 35% right. When people come to me to publish, or if they want my help, I say, look, it's 35% writing the book, it's 65% marketing and publishing, or marketing really, not even publishing. 35% is part of the publishing process. Can you tell us, like, literally list them down? I want you to tell us and explain to someone who hasn't done it before. Once you finish the manuscript, and I do want to go back to how you wrote the second manuscript, or when you change your process, what are all the other things you have to do?
Well, I think you need a team around you. So you said, I have this incredible team. My book wouldn't be here today. It wouldn't be what it is today without the people that have been involved in the process.
Okay.
So I think in terms of before I even gave my book to the world to read, so before it became what it is now, I had it go through multiple readers, people who I was like, tell me the truth, you know, let me know, is this working, is it not working? Yes, I wanted to know. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'd rather you tell me that this isn't good than all these other people tell me it down the road. So
But just on that point, because I went through a similar thing, and it took me, I would say, you know, several goes to find one or two people who I knew were really going to be honest.
Yeah.
How do you get across to people you know? Because I feel like so many writers will give a manuscript to a friend, and they say to me, oh, well, you know, my uncle thinks it's great. And I'm like, really? Okay, how about, you know, someone in the general public? Mm-hmm. So how did you make sure that, you know, you were getting the truth? Was it just like a mixture of everyone's comments, or?
Yeah, because I did more than just one or two people. I had a variety of people read it. Essentially, if I expressed to somebody,
roughly how many? A dozen?
Probably.
As many?
Yeah, I would say as many as that. Wow. Yeah. And then I also, one of my beta readers is another author. Okay. So she and I we've exchanged manuscripts, but we look for that from each other. Right. So I know she's going to get back to me and be like, I love this, but this weakens your plot here, or this strengthens it, do more of it. And that kind of feedback that I know she's going to give me because she's another author. And when I read her stuff, I'm going to do the same for her. Right, so she's going to tell me what's working. She's going to tell me what's not. So that's one way.
And then continue all the other things you have to do. So you got your team around you.
Sure.
Then just sort of, if you wouldn't mind, and it doesn't matter if you forget stuff, but just take us, I just want to give someone a sense of the arc of what happens once you've finished a manuscript.
Sure. So, I think that obviously you need the marketing. Like you said, that is a huge part of it. So I have my email list that I'm constantly working on building. My social media presence has grown in the past.
So email list for newsletters, right?
For newsletters, yes.
How often do you send a newsletter?
Currently I'm sending it more regularly because I'm in the middle of like launching my book and sharing about it and everything. Right now it's about
twice a month?
Yeah, that's normally the time that in general, I would say over the course of the year, once or twice a month. It's been more frequently with my launch. So probably each week I'm just updating people with what's going on, sharing the news.
How did you physically, I use MailerLite, by the way. How did you physically start your newsletter? Like, how did you start getting people on the newsletter? Because presumably you did it before you even launched the first book.
Correct. Yeah. So I use MailerLite as well.
Okay.
I got people, well, I think my first foundation building block A was going to the people who I knew liked what I was writing. They read in the genre, they were interested, and just directly saying, hey, do you want to be on my email list? And adding them that way. You get your first 10, 15 people, you start to feel like this isn't impossible. And then I use email building techniques. So I've run giveaways. I've used things with...
Tell someone, because again, this is all some of the stuff I want to talk about, but I sort of never get to it. We're right there. I did a giveaway the very first time to get my emails, and I got all these like weird people, you know, replying and saying, it was just, I gave, just for those of you who don't know. So a giveaway, what an indie author can do when they first start out is you can like give away 3 thriller books, say for me, and if you give them away, then people sign up for your it's like a lottery. It's like a lottery. So you get email lists, and that is how you start an email list, right?
Exactly.
So what did you give away?
I did I think about 5 other young adult books that would fit, whether they were dystopian or action adventure thriller. No, from different authors. Okay. So, and then I let those authors know. I was like, hey, I'm running a giveaway. I'm using one of your books. I love what you do. I'm excited to share this. So if you want, here's a graphic. If you want to share it with your social media, your newsletter, let them know. And so that way, those people are also spreading the word. And they're excited because one of their books is being sold and being shared with hopefully a new reader who's going to be excited about it. One of them, I was like, talked with her. She said, hey, if you order from this bookshop, I'll go in, I'll sign a copy, I'll send it to you. You can do an autographed copy, which was awesome. I was so excited to be able to offer that.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I don't think people realize, you know, how much we indie authors do to sort of get people interested.
Yes.
And frankly, I enjoy it. I do actually enjoy it. At first I didn't, but now I kind of enjoy it because it's sort of like the relaxing part of the day, and you sort of think, oh, what can I do now to market myself?
Sure.
You know. So what else?
So I've done newsletter swaps with other authors.
Great idea.
Same genre. You know, you don't really. I'm not going to swap with a romance author.
Yes.
I'm going to end up with an email list full of people who really aren't going to want what I write, you know. So trying to keep that young adult authors within my genre, or, you know, touching on the genres that would be similar interests. I've done group promos through BookFunnel. They have a whole series. If you're on BookFunnel, you can have your reader magnet set up, and you can require email list, you know, sign up to get that reader magnet, and then you can join these great group promos that BookFunnel sets up, really, and you just share about it in your genre. Yep.
How many clicks do you normally get?
I don't actually know what I'm at right now. That's a good question.
Because you have to get, I think you're supposed to get at least 10 clicks, and then I think I usually get about 10. I was just curious, because I do that too.
I'm terrible. You know? So I never mean to keep numbers back from people. They just don't stay in my brain. I can't remember numbers for the life of me.
Right. Okay, so, and then, you know, okay, so what else? Like anything else now, because we finally staying on this topic, which I always try to get to for other writers.
Sure.
Anything else, you burning things that you think are useful and people should do, and that maybe people are watching who don't know about writing, think, wow, that's amazing. What else do you do?
So I really look for opportunities to share about what I do wherever I can. I love guesting on podcasts, for example. So I've done that. I've done that for writing.
Do you reach out to them, or do you wait till they come to you?
I'm currently in the reaching out point of my career, I think. You know, I have had some that have reached out to me and said, hey, you know, I'd love to have you on. So, which is neat. Now I'm seeing both coming in, which is an exciting thing. But
wow.
Yeah.
And then going back to the writing again, so you mentioned that you've changed the way you write now. Tell us a little about how it's evolved, the actual writing process.
So over the past decade, in the time I've been writing specifically, I've really made it a part of my learning to study the craft of writing.
Okay.
I want to learn how to write better, to write faster, to constantly be improving, so that every story I write is a better story than the last one. So in the process of that, I've learned ways to prepare myself to write a story that's better and stronger than it would have been before. So I'm no longer with my paragraph to one-page story idea and just diving in.
Yep.
I read the book by Randy Inger Manson. It's called The Snowflake Method.
Oh, okay.
And it's an excellent book on crafting. And pretty much you just start with your concept and you build out, and he's constantly building the next block of it. And you come to the end and you have this great outline, these character Bibles, all this stuff ready to go. And so when you dive into writing, you know a lot of where you're going, but it also leave some room for the story to surprise you. I still like to know my characters can surprise me sometimes.
I'm just wondering whether you've encountered this phenomena as I have fairly recently. So I would have my chapter outline, or my scene outline rather.
Sure.
And it's probably, I don't know, 100, 150 scenes in a book, say. And then, so what I found is I had this whole outline, but it was very loose. And as I finish a chapter, I say to myself, I look at my plan and I say to myself, nah, that can't happen. That's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
So in other words, what I'm saying is, once you've written in full a whole chapter or scene, things change.
Yes.
Does that happen for you?
Yes, it does. But I like that. I like that when I'm writing, sometimes the characters come in and surprise me, or the story takes a twist I didn't expect.
Right.
It's amazing how your brain can create these things and these worlds. And I will typically look ahead and be like, okay, now I need to adjust this.
Yes.
You know, I was going to introduce this character now, or later, but I need to introduce them now because of what I just did. And it develops, and then that's what rewrites are for. So my first draft, I don't expect to be finished. I write my first draft to get it out, to create that draft. And then I come back in with my notes and what I had planned and make sure I hit all the points that were really important. And then I start chipping away and cleaning things up.
So this is what I would call a pretty long book. I mean, it's 400 pages. How many? 120, 130,000 words?
Yeah, around 130.
So that's a pretty long book.
It is.
Is the second one as long?
So the second one is the reason my series might be 4 books instead of 3, because it might need to be broken in half. So currently in the process of figuring out what's going to happen there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so tell me, so you've finished the second book. You're editing the second book, right? But presumably you've outlined the third and fourth, sort of outline, whatever that means. So when did you start writing? Give us the timeline of how long it's taking you to write 4 books. I mean, it's crazy. Or will take. You know.
So I've learned to write much faster. So my second book I drafted at the beginning of this year. Yeah. I had prepped it at the end of 2021.
Right.
I did all of my outlining and my preparing around beginning of January 2022, I took about 2 months and drafted my second book.
2 months?
Yes.
Working how many hours a day?
I'm a fairly quick writer, so I mainly went for a word count. I wanted to hit 2,500 words a day.
Wow.
So, yeah, and that's my first draft. Again, it is not, you check your editor at the door in your brain and you kind of just come in and you write.
Do you write on a laptop?
I write on a desktop.
On a desktop?
Yeah.
And do you have when do you do it?
First thing in the morning, pretty much.
Like what time?
Right now, my writing time has gotten a little earlier so that I can get everything else I need to do done in the day. But I write between like 7:30 and 9 typically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you exercise before or after that?
Typically, well, this time of year after. I wake up early, very early, pretty much. So this I will do some other morning routine things, and then I'll sit down and write. And then I love going on a walk or being outside. So I'll do that typically after I finish writing.
So 2,500 words a day, you said, right?
When I'm drafting like a longer.
Right. So you got that done in a couple of months then, pretty much.
Yeah.
So then how long, what about the second sort of pass, as it were, say by the editor? How long does that take? Like a month, 2 months?
Yeah. So, the second book, because of the changes my developmental editor made to book 1, book 2 has to change. So that came like at the beginning of the summer, my edits for book 1. And so I spent probably about a month and a half doing the very major rewrites that I had to do to make the military aspects of my world actually realistic.
Yeah, tell us about that. That's another thing I wanted to ask you about. So the military thing, I noticed you kind of gave a credit to your military expert.
Yes.
But I was going to say, that's one thing we have in common. We both write sort of military things.
Oh.
So, I mean, how did you, I mean, it's very confident of you to just sort of, I was thinking, well, I wonder if she's been in the military,
Right. No, I haven't.
So you just kind of made it up, and then you just got someone who you thought did know a little bit more about the military.
I did some research, thought I had a grasp of it. And then my developmental editor is a Marine. So he's a retired Marine, a veteran, and he took it. And so one of the...
so that was just coincidence.
Yeah, it worked out. Yeah. And which is one of the reasons I was like, yes, I want to work with you, because I knew he would have insight into my story. So he went through...
And he's at the publisher.
Yeah. So he was somebody I found outside of that. Okay. Yeah. So he went through it, and we...
CJ, Carly, you're going to have to come back, because like I as you've noticed, I haven't even looked down at my questions. I had like 20 questions on here, and I just didn't even need to look at questions. But I did want to try something new. I just want to try, how on the Actors Studio, James Lipton asks quick fire questions, and I just thought I wanted to try it on my show here. So what's your favorite color?
I love red and kind of that tealy green color.
Okay, and by the way, speaking of color, I love this cover. We didn't talk about the cover, but fantastic cover. What's your cover designer?
Emily Haney.
Emily, great job, Emily.
She's fantastic.
Can't wait to see the second one. What's your favorite food?
I probably can eat pizza or Mexican any day of the week.
Okay, pet peeve?
Oh, slow drivers.
Slow drivers. I came up with one. Mine I think is still grass blowers, leaf blowers.
Oh, okay.
Those drive me nuts. Favorite country apart from America?
I spent a few months in Italy, and I loved it there.
Love it. Favorite book? You said you haven't really have a favorite book.
I have a terrible time picking a favorite.
Favorite movie?
Oh.
Or one of your favorites?
One of my favorites. I love Italian Job.
Okay, me too. Favorite drink, alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
I really love water. It sounds so lame. I will guzzle water all day long. I've really refrained.
So how many ounces, as you mentioned, do you
know
drink?
Those big mason jars? Like what are those? I don't know how many ounces they are. I'll go through several of them a day. I overhydrate. It's a problem.
I just started that recently. I do recommend that. I do 10 8-ounce glasses a day. Favorite animal?
Oh, my mom thinks I should love zebras since I ref, so I guess we'll just go with that.
and finally, the person you would most like to meet, as James Lipton, you say, when you reach the pearly gates?
Well, I mean, Jesus? Honestly. Yeah, that would be the answer.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Carly, for joining us. We're going to definitely have to come back for book 2, right?
I would love to.
Right. Thank you for joining us today on Author Hour and sharing your wonderful talent. Cheerio. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.